Sabbath to you all from four corners of the world. I'd like to greet you all and say to you, blessed Sabbath, as we are going to meet to discuss the present truth. It's our privilege to know all these truths before Christ comes to join us. And so our study today, the topic I have chosen is Matthew chapter 13, verse 30, which says, let both grow together until the harvest. Is Revelation 18 that harvest that was promised? Because Christ promised us that all the wheat and the tares should grow together until the harvest. Not until he comes, but until the harvest. So, is Matthew 18 that harvest? That's our question, as we are going to study today to see this harvest, how it is, what nature of harvest was Christ talking about. Now, before we go on, let's go to what Sister White herself has said would happen when she dies. Go to manuscript release, February 24, 1915. We all know that Sister White died in 1915. And before she died, she made us have a big warning from her dying lips. And what did she say? Right?
I tell you now that when I am laid to rest, great changes will take place.
She said that in the movement that she was leading of Sabbath keepers, that after she is laid to rest, the enemy was going to rush in to distort a lot of things. She said, I tell you now that when I'm laid to rest, great changes will take place. There will be great changes. Now, let's hear. I want the people to know that I warned them fully before my death. She said, I'm warning you before I'm fully laid to the grave, that when I die, there will be more changes to her movement. She said that. So this warning gives you and I a heads up to say, let's find out for ourselves what did change. Because she warned us. She said, and I've warned you. If you read on the quotation, you find the word warned is in capital letters. That's what she said. I've warned you that when I'm fully laid to the grave, things will change. So it means before she died, there were so many things that wanted to be changed, which she was fighting not to change. And she saw her death was going to bring rise to those changes. So for you and I to meet and study and dig deeper, this is what God is calling for in the last days. So now let's for us to start, let's start with testimony to ministers, which is TM 234.2. It's a bit longish. Let's hear what she said there.
The looker on may discern no difference,
right?
But there is one who said that the tares were not to be plucked up by human hands,
right,
lest the wheat be rooted up also.
So you see, the warning of the harvest, which Christ said was, because the disciples wanted to pluck the tares, but he says, no. That's not going to be done by anybody at this time. Because when you pluck off the tares, you will pluck off the wheat. He gave a stern warning for us not to disfellowship people out of our churches. Christ said, if you pluck, you will not be able to know which one is a tare and a wheat. But at the time of the harvest, you will know who is who. Now, before we enter the pearly gates, before we enter in the kingdom, we will be knowing each other. We will be knowing who is a tare, and we will be knowing who is a wheat. How will we know? Because God will give us a message, which those who are wheat will be clustered together. Those who are tares will be clustered together. We will know the differences in the camp. The camp will bring differences because of the wheat will be pronounced. and the tares will be pronounced. They will know each other. Now here is saying the difference at that time when Christ was seeing the wheat and tares together, the disciples wouldn't see the difference. But these differences, as we are towards the harvest, as we are in the harvest, they are more marked. Do you understand? Now read on here. Start.
Let both grow together until the harvest.
That's what he said. Yeah.
Then the Lord sends forth his reapers to gather out the tares and bind them in bundles to burn.
Now, most people think it's Christ going to come himself to separate the wheat and the tares. But God says he will send reapers. When we sing and say, Lord of harvest, send forth reapers, we are calling for these reapers to come and do the harvest, which Christ promised. Let both grow together until the harvest. When in the harvest, we will know who is God's people and who is not. That will separate who is going to the pearly gates and who is not. The harvest, the reapers have been promised. And these reapers will come and proclaim a message which will separate the wheat from the tares. This is what Christ is promising. Let's read on there.
Then the Lord sends forth his reapers to gather out the tares and bind them in bundles to burn, while the wheat is gathered into the heavenly garner. The time of the judgment is a most solemn period, when the Lord gathers his own from among the tares.
Now, this time of the harvest, it's a solemn period. We call it harvest or the time of judgment. That time is the time of the sealing program. This sealing program is a solemn time in heaven because it's a time when the wheat is separated from the tares. They are all bundled, but what causes all this is a message. That's why my question is Revelation 18 the message to separate the wheat from the tares? Is it truly the message to separate the wheat from the tares? But how are they separated? He will send forth reapers with a message to separate the wheat from the tares. This is what we have been told. Now read on.
Those who have been members of the same family are separated.
This is what happens before Christ comes. When the message of Revelation 18, which has been promised to come and separate the wheat from the tares, those from the same family will be separated. This is what Sister White has written in Testimonies to Ministers, page 234. It says, when these reapers will come with the message, it will separate even families. You see, we are in a solemn period. When families are separated, we find one family who believes in the message from the reapers, and the other family fighting those who believe the message from the reapers. Is it not this time which was promised by Christ, where he will send forth reapers to separate the wheat from the tares? As I say, is it Revelation 18? Sent to separate the wheat from the tares. It says, come out of Babylon, my people. What was Babylon? Confusion. What is confusion? Confusion. We have seen this confusion that came from Nimrod. We saw it. It's confusion when people are made to worship the sun. People are made to worship the dead and making them God's Christ's birthday. We have seen all that confusion. So when he says, come out of Babylon, my people, you see why he singled out the city Babylon. Why he's singling it out is because of that confusion, that Babel coming from Nimrod on the Tower of Babel, making sure they build a tower against God's will. Now, are there people who are worshiping God against his will? Now, we see it starting from the house of God. It says, come out of it, my people. And I've seen people, blowing this to other people or to the world and say Revelation 18 comes to the world. Now, it comes first. No messages come straight from God to the world and then the church. No, it comes first to the church and then the world. Now, if you have Revelation chapter 14 verse 8 by William Miller, came straight to the church which was then and separated them. When they were waiting for the coming of Christ, it separated and created what was called Advent believers. They were separated by Revelation 14 verse 8. And we were told that Revelation 14 verse 8 will be repeated. And when it is repeated, we see it in Revelation 18. Come out of here, my people. When? In our time. Now, let's study how this happens. And it says, read on, it says, how is this harvest done? We have seen one family is being separated by reapers being sent in the time of the harvest. Now, the time of the judgment, now read from there, the time of the judgment is a most solemn period. Yeah.
The time of the judgment is a most solemn period when the Lord gathers his own from among the tares.
That's what he will be doing in the time of harvest, when the reapers are preaching the message. And what? Huh?
Those who have been members of the same family are separated.
Is it not happening at our time? We see some families believing the feast, some families fighting those who are believing the feast in the same family. Is it not the harvest time? Is it the message that God said, I'll send forth reapers? And when this message is proclaimed, it will separate families. Yeah? And what?
A mark is placed upon the righteous.
Is it not this time when the mark is placed upon the righteous? First in the church, first in the house of God. Is it not this time that was promised by Christ that I'll send forth reapers? Is it not? Right? A mark is blessed.
They shall be mine, saith the Lord of hosts.
And when the mark is blessed, he says, they shall be mine. They shall be mine. They are sealed to be Christ. They will never, once you get the seal, which is a settling into truth. Now we saw the seal in early writing, page 15. It had 3 seals. God, New Jerusalem, and a glorious star containing Jesus. In the house of God, there are people who are sealed with these 3 seals. And there are some who completely do not know what a seal is. It is there, separating the wheat from the tares. A mark is placed to those who have the wheat. Yeah? Because the early writing is telling us what is the seal. It says it is the 1,400 were seen, and their forehead had God, New Jerusalem, and a glorious star containing Jesus' new name. And we said Jesus' new name is the branch. Now, is it not happening in the house of God, in those who believe in the coming of Christ, the Sabbath believers? Is it not happening? A mark is placed in the forehead of the believers. And it says, they shall be mine. And what is this period? It is the harvest period. It is the period Christ promised. Let both grow together until this period of the sealing process. Now, I'm saying, who are God's people? The people who are going to be sealed with the 3 seals. Early writing 15. Now, read it again. Early writing page 15. Read it so that we hear. Is it the seal? But you find people who say, no, the seal is just the Sabbath. So, while there are people who say the seal are the 3 seals in early writing. Read.
The 144,000 were all sealed and perfectly united. On their foreheads was written, God, New Jerusalem, and a glorious star containing Jesus' new name.
So those who say the seal is the Sabbath, yes, that's the first seal. It says God, those are the Sabbath. But what about New Jerusalem? Is the keeping of these feasts 3 times a year in Jerusalem. That's another seal. That's why in Zechariah chapter 14, verse 16, it says, if anyone does not come for these feasts, for the Feast of Tabernacle, which is the last feast, there will be no rain. So you see people are being sealed with the next seal, which is New Jerusalem. And then the last seal, which is Jesus' new name, which we found in Zechariah chapter 6, verse 12, that he is called the branch. From 1844, he entered in the Holy of Holies. It says so in Great Controversy, page 415, that is the name he assumed when he entered the Holy of Holies to start interceding. Now, there will be people who believe these 3-fold truths. They shall be mine. They shall be. I'm asking, who are God's people right now? Now we are saying here, there is a time of separation, or the harvest, which was promised in Matthew chapter 13, verse 30. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the harvest, it's not the time for Christ to come, but it's the time for this solemn event of separating the wheat from the tares. This is what God calls the harvest. This is a solemn period which the whole heavenly universe is looking forward to, for the wheat to be separated from the tares. But what are they separate? What separates them is a mark. It's the sealing. It's the sealing. Those who are sealed will have a mark. Will have a mark. And what is the mark? Sister White has said it. They had 3 seals. God, New Jerusalem, and a glorious star containing Jesus' new name. It's there also in Revelation chapter 3, verse 12. It says, these are the 3 seals which the overcomers will be given. Let's hear from Revelation chapter 3, verse 12. It says so. This is the seal. This Sister White saw. And even Revelation has seen, I've seen people say, oh, it's only Sister White, but the Bible doesn't say so. Sister White will not utter anything which is not in the Bible. Yeah? Sister White will not utter, and someone will say, oh, this sealing, which is in Ezekiel 9, people believe there was going to be a slaughter. People who are false and satanic. I said, hey, hang on there. Let's go to the Bible. It says in Ezekiel chapter 9 clearly, verse 4 up to 7, it says there is a slaughter. And then I said, if you can't believe the Bible, go to the Spirit of Prophecy in Testimonies to Ministers, volume 5, page 211. It says there is a slaughter. So if both the Bible and Sister White are wrong, then who is then wrong? Who is wrong? Who is wrong? Now, if things are in the Spirit of Prophecy and in the Bible, then that's clearly a truth. That's a clear truth. Anything other than that is false. Now, read from the Revelation chapter 3, verse 12. What is the seal?
Him that overcometh,
right,
will I make a pillar in the temple of my God.
Right.
And he shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my God.
What?
And the name of the city of my God.
What?
Which is New Jerusalem.
Right. And the
which cometh down out of heaven from my God.
Right.
And I will write upon him my new name.
Is Sister White saying things out of context? It is there in Revelation chapter 3, verse 12. 3 verse 12 says 3 seals, and Sister White says 3 seals. I don't know where you are coming from with another seal which is not in these 2 books, the Bible and the Spirit of Prophecy. Any writing, page 15 says 3 seals. And Revelation chapter 3 verse 12 says 3 seals. That's what we believe. Who are God's people? Because we know at this time there are people who are not God's people. They come off with all sorts of things that they call seals. But we will stand by what the Bible says. The overcomers will be written those 3 seals. And any writing from Sister White says, there were written God, New Jerusalem, and a glorious star. And that is what Sister White is saying, Testimonies to Ministers, 234, that the overcomers, God is putting a mark on the overcomers. Overcoming what? Overcoming all this apostasy, all this prophecy, all these falsehoods from Babylon. You overcome. Once you overcome, you shall not go anywhere back. You will be a pillar in the temple of God. That's what Revelation has said, isn't it? So, let's read. It says, years on from among the tares, the time of the judgment. Repeat that one.
They shall be mine, saith the Lord of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them, as a man spareth his own son that severeth him.
Right? So you see the mark. It also causes you to be spared from the time of trouble such as never. We have already started this time of trouble. Look at the pestilences. God is promising, with the sealing process, I will spare them. Look at what is happening. Look at where we are going, strife and commotion. It is there. But God is saying, once you have been sealed, once a mark is placed to his own, he will spare them. It says so. And then?
Those who have been obedient to God's commandments will unite with the company of the saints in light.
Right.
They shall enter in through the gates into the city.
Right.
And
so this seal will those who have been faithful in the laws of God, which the Ten Commandments, the moral law, and the feast, the ceremonial law, they are all bundled together. Why? Because that's what makes what is called God's people. You understand?
And here, okay, those who have been obedient to God's commandments will unite with the company of the saints in light.
Right?
They shall enter in through the gates into the city and have right to the tree of life.
Right?
The one shall be taken. His name shall stand in the book of life.
Right?
While those with whom he associated shall have the mark of eternal separation from God.
This is what will separate people. Let both grow together until the harvest. What is separating the people? The seal. A mark is placed so that you enter in the city. It did not say so that you enter in the cloud, but in the city where the kingdom will be established. That's where we enter first. And when he's talking about the harvest, he is getting our mind back to what we do in the field. What do we do in the field? When we sow our plants, they are there together with the wheat and tares. But when a time comes, the reapers, the farmer, goes to separate the wheat from the tares. And what does he do? He does not take it straight into the barn. No, it's taken first to be threshed. Do you understand? It will be threshed and made into further harvested in the barn. And then at last, that's when we are supposed to go to heaven. You know? So this process in the field is exactly the process which God is using. In our language, they say you take into the Ingalani, yeah? And then after that, after Ingalani, you go into Ihoz, you know? So there is a process. So here, Ingalani is the kingdom. And then after the kingdom, where do you go? Hoz, to be stored in heaven. So this is the process that God is going to follow in his harvest. Now, let us read again from 2 Ezra 164.1. Start with, when the judgment opened in 1844. We know Christ went into the Holy of Holies in 1844. Let's find out more about that. Because Sister White warned us. I warn you, things will change after I'm laid to the. She was so scared that when she is gone, things will change. She knew the Uriah Smiths, they were there. They were after her. They were against her. They caused everyone to reject the 1888 message. It's there. We read it at the time. So she knew all that. So she knew that her foes will take over and change things. So we have to dig deeper and find out so that we are left upright with God. Now, when the judgment
opened in 1844,
right,
as previously explained, the investigation began with the dead.
Right. So we were told in 483, great controversy, 483, that the judgment, investigative judgment, starts first with the dead and then proceeds to the living. So we are in the judgment of the living, which is the harvest. The judgment of the living is the harvest, which we are talking about, which is the sealing or the mark. Then, if we all agree that we are in the sealing process, then we are in the judgment for the living. Now, read on.
When the judgment opened in 1844, as previously explained, the investigation began with the dead.
Right.
And when that part of the work is finished, then commences the judgment of the living.
Right. What I've just said, right? Read on.
While the investigation for the congregation of the dead is in progress,
right,
there can be no separation among the congregation of the living.
Now, when in 1844, Christ started with the investigation from the death of Abel. That's the first death, isn't it? And it was still the investigation for the dead. There was nothing to separate. Nothing. They were just investigating the books. But the solemn period is when the investigation proceeded to the living, which I say the investigation proceeded to the living in 1977. How I come to that date is another prophecy. But for now, let's believe it started in 1977. So when it's, 1955, sorry, not 1977. When it started in 1955, the investigative judgment for the living, this is the time when now he is investigating those who are going to meet Christ before testing death. And those who are going to have the seal, the 3 seals, will never test death. Why? Because it's a seal of immortality. That's why I said, they shall be mine, they will be protected. You will take care of them. What does he mean by take care? What is happening when you are sealed? We understood when Cain killed Abel, you remember that time. Cain was told to go to a country and God was going to set a mark on him that nobody will kill him. But when you go to the spirit of prophecy, it will tell you that the only mark that was set on Cain was he had an extra protection from angels. So when you are getting these 3 seals, the angels are doubled on a soul who gets the 3 seals. What do I mean? Where are they coming from, these angels? It says so in the spirit of prophecy. Those who rejected the seal will lose their angels. Did you hear that? They lose their angels by rejecting the seals. They will lose their angels. And when the seal is God, which is the Sabbath, and New Jerusalem, which are the feasts, and Jesus' new name, which is the name of the branch, how many people have rejected those things? So it means they will lose their angels. And where do those angels go to? They go to those who have accepted the seals. And they are doubled. This is the protection God is promising those who have received the seal. What else would God do? Would he spare his angels to go and protect somebody who rejects the seals? This is a solemn period. It's a period, even the angels, that's why Sister I said, I saw angels hurrying to and fro. Why? Instead, when they are going to John, they now leave John alone. They go to Luke. Oh, when Luke rejects, they go to another one who accepts. They leave the people who are refusing the last message of mercy. It's there in the spirit of prophecy. Now here we are seeing the judgment starts first in the judgment of the dead. It started from 1844. But we are now in the judgment of the living, where a mark is being placed on those who accept the seal. By accepting the seals, accepting the messages coming with the seal. What is a seal? A settling into truth so that you are not moved. Which truth? These 3-fold truths. Settle in them, you are receiving the seal, and the angels double to make protection. Did you hear that? Now read on. When it's coming to the judgment of the living, understand what is happening in the judgment of the living.
While the investigation for the congregation of the dead is in progress,
right,
there can be no separation among the congregation of the living.
So, while it's in 1844, the congregation of the living continued to be intact. There was no disfellowshipping or nothing. There was no, arguments in the congregation of the living, because Christ was still in the congregation of the dead, investigating the dead. But read on.
But when our high priest shall begin the atonement for the living, there must be a message of present truth, sounding of the trumpet.
When the investigative judgment starts with the living, the very first thing the reapers are given, a message. Did you hear that? And what?
There must be a message of present truth, sounding of the trumpet, urging everyone to lay hold of the Lamb of God, Christ, by which only can he in figure come to the sanctuary, confess his sin, and secure his life.
That's the message which is there. Come to the sanctuary. What is in the sanctuary? These sanctuary laws that we are proclaiming as if they are nailed to the cross, they are the ones brought back to these that are being investigated for the living. It's investigation for you to receive the seal to live. What message? The message of the sanctuary, which was promised to Daniel, that unto 2,300 days shall the sanctuary be cleansed. These all messages, the laws of the sanctuary, are brought back as it was in Moses' time. Did you hear?
unless the close of the judgment for the dead and the commencement of for the living be made known to us, we would have no present truth while the judgment for the living is in season.
So we should have a new message in the judgment of the living. In the judgment of the dead, there was a prophet, which was Sister White. In the judgment of the living, there should be a prophet who is proclaiming a message for those who are receiving the seal. If you and I believe that the seal is being received, then there should be a proclaimer of the seal. The message in the seal comes with someone proclaiming it. That's why we see in Malachi chapter 4, verse 4 to 5, that I will send Elijah the prophet with the message of the sanctuary. Which one? Of the statutes and judgments. The sanctuary laws are brought back. Which are these feasts that we are rejecting? Now read on.
Neither would such judgment be legal or just.
How then do we expect God to judge if he is not going to judge using a message? So he throws a message and he assesses the spiritual condition of the people. The wheat will grab the message. The tares will refuse the message. This is what is happening. That's how people will receive the seal and some will reject it. Why? There is a message. There is a prophet proclaiming a message. The reapers are proclaiming the message. And the wheat and the tares are dancing the tune, one to each side and the other to the other side. This is what is happening in the judgment of the living. Did you understand that? Now,
okay. He who fails to respond to the heavenly summons will be left without the seal of covering of God.
This is what happens. The seal, once you are left without a seal, what is a seal? It's a covering for protection. That's why it's a seal of immortality. This is a seal, or the message is the one that protects you. That makes God double with the angels to give you protection, because it's a seal of immortality. Why? You are getting ready for the grand work when Christ comes in the kingdom to use you now to collect the whole harvest of the world. Loud cry. We haven't started the loud cry. It starts in the house of God. The loud cry starts in the house of God. It is already in the house of God right now. If we believe it's sealing time, then it's the loud cry in the house of God. When he comes to start the kingdom, he tests the 144,000. That's why we see the 144,000 on Mount Zion with Christ, now fully geared for the loud cry of the whole world. He sent the 144,000 to collect them with the same message of the sanctuary laws, judgment of the living. Did you understand it? Now read on.
He who